What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Call the Damn Leads training. I'm super stoked for you to be here. If you are live with us in the group, the best thing that you can do is hit like, comment, get this thing fired up in the algorithm, make sure people can see it. I am going to open it up here. Check me out. I got us. We're rocking and rolling. I'm going to open up the room for anybody who's joining us on the Zoom call. Let's get this thing rocking and rolling. All right. Here we go. We got people joining us today. If you are jumping in, I am going to ask that you make sure to mute yourself. I'm going to make sure I'm muting everybody along the way. I'm going to get this thing started here in just a minute. And I have a little presentation to go through. I'm going to break down the 30-day sales and follow-up process that has literally made me over $1 million in commissions in my bank account, cash moolah that I have used to create an amazing life for me and my family, including getting ready to sell our $500,000 home and move into a $250,000 condo on wheels in the form of a fifth wheel trailer that we're going to be using to travel around the United States and seeing all the amazing things this country has to offer. And that's all possible because of sales and because of this exact process that I'm going to teach you today. So if you hang out here with me, I promise you're going to get a ton of value. You're going to learn a few things, and I'm going to keep it very, very simple for you because let's be honest, if you complicate shit, nobody gets anything done. So I'm going to do my very, very best to make this as easy as possible for all of you to understand, to implement. And at the end of this call, I have something pretty amazing to give you. So make sure you hang out to the end. I'm going to make you some offers to get some things that are going to really help you get where you want to be on your continued journey. That being said, as you're coming in, if you are joining us live in the Zoom, make sure to mute yourself. I'm going to open up the floor for Q&A on the end. If you are in the group watching, make sure you're commenting, make sure you're engaging, do all the things that get this thing out into the algorithm because I want to share this with as many people as possible. So let me get this opened up. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to start this presentation, and we're going to rock this thing out the right way. Full screen. There we go. And I'm going to share this guy over here. Let's see. And then what I'm going to need from all of y'all is, can you see that call, serve, profit opening screen? I got a thumbs up from the gallery. That's what I'm talking about. Awesome. I appreciate you all so much. We're going to dive in and get started here. So again, this is Call, Serve, Profit, my 30-day strategy for transforming leads into revenue, because what I know is many of you are business owners, entrepreneurs, you're sales professionals, and you are spending your hard-earned dollars on marketing. You're putting out time, you're putting out energy to go and generate leads and opportunity for your business, but you're not maximizing the return on that investment. And that's what we're here to do today, is to help you maximize that return by showing you exactly a process you can follow and implement right now, starting today, to get a better close rate, to get more engagement, and to turn those leads into cold, hard cash. So let's get started. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Drewbie Wilson, aka Andrew Wilson. That's my government name. That's what you see here on Facebook, because Meta wouldn't let me be Drewbie and have the blue check mark, because that's not what's on my ID. But that doesn't matter, because Drewbie is the new man that I've become. As you see, the man on the left there, I was a little bit overweight. I was unfulfilled. And on this journey, learning sales, learning personal development, going all in on the processes has really allowed me to change my life, my family's life, and the life of every person who I come in contact with along the way, because I've now put myself in a position to do some pretty amazing things. I am a husband, a father, I own a business, I have 2 best-selling books, a third that didn't go bestseller, but I still think is pretty amazing. I have hosted more than 1,000 podcasts, and I like to do hard stuff, because when you do the hard things, guess what? Life tends to get a little bit easier. I know that sounds crazy, but when you do the hard stuff first, the rest of your day gets easier. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to help you make your life easier. That being said, the key to all of this is using follow-up. The whole point of generating these leads is so that you can engage with them, you can have a conversation, you can understand where they are in the buying process, and if they are even a good fit to work with you or not. Because here's the truth, not everyone with a credit card and a pulse is someone that you want to work with. Not all business is good business, people. Let's be very clear about that. And to be honest, not all leads are good leads. That's why we have to have pre-qualifying questions. That's why we need to understand, is this individual who I am communicating with someone that I'm in a position to help? And if not, do I have someone who can provide the service that they need? If so, can I pass them as a referral? Or worst case scenario, am I willing to just say, you know what, ma'am, sir, we are not a good fit to work together. It would be best for you to find another company, because the sooner you can end a conversation with someone who's not a good fit, the sooner you can go to working with someone who is. And that's what you're all about, going to securing the bag, right? Because once you've had the conversation, you've built rapport, you've qualified, you know you're in a position to help them. Now you have to do that. And the only thing that you can do there, handle objections, get them to sign and pay, and move forward, because that's what we're here to do, to collect the money. Because money is the tool that we use to buy back our time. And time is the ultimate resource, because you can't buy it other than delegating the tasks that you would do in that time. You can't win it in a poker tournament, and no one gets a card full of it on their birthday. It's not like, hey, happy birthday, here's an extra year. No, scratch that. It's happy birthday, take another year off the boxes because you're 1 year older. So just understand that the whole point of this process is to save you time and help you make more money so that you can buy back more of your time to go do the things that you want and live the life that you want to live. You guys with me on that? You down for that? I know you are. That's what I'm talking about. So, first and foremost, I want you to understand that not all leads are the same. When you're going through this sales and follow-up process, it's important to remember that leads come from a number of different places. And so the main ones that I look at are your internet marketing leads. If you're spending money on pay-per-click advertising, billboards, whatever it might be that you're using to market your business, and it's generating inbound traffic, that's someone who's filling out a form, who's calling into your office, who's raising their hand at an event, whatever that marketing would be, where you're having that inbound conversation, that's a marketing lead. That conversation would be different than someone who came through as a referral, let's say, because a referral is probably going to be somebody who's introduced to you from someone that already knows, likes, and trusts you. So that conversation is going to be slightly different than an internet lead who said, hey, I'm interested in getting a free roof, or hey, I'd like to know more about getting cable internet at my home. Those are a different interest level. It's a different conversation than someone who's brought to you by a friend and says, hey, Amy is the expert when it comes to roofing and contracting. You want to talk to her about getting things done. You understand that's going to be a different conversation. Same thing when you're working your organic traffic, which would be, if you meet someone on social media, or maybe you're out at an event and you start having conversation, maybe you're in line at the grocery store. The follow-up process you're going to use with that person is still going to be slightly nuanced based on the conversation that you had and the type of offer that you're making, because you may be in a business where you have multiple products or services, and you want to make sure that you're not doing a crossover or confusing your customer or prospect by sending them the wrong kind of messaging, sending them the wrong kind of information based on their current need. Y'all still tracking with me so far? All right, rock and roll. I appreciate the gallery up here helping me on track. Y'all the best. Now, moving on from there, we need to look at the 4 different types of effective follow-up, because in this day and age, there are a lot of different ways that we can follow up with clients. You know me, I'm old school. I'll still tell you, call the damn leads, pick up the phone, have a real conversation with them. The problem is a lot of people have call reluctance. They're afraid to get on the phone. They're afraid to actually call and reach out to people. And what I've learned, you can reject this if this isn't you, but what I've learned along the way is that most people are afraid to call because they don't want to be salesy. The craziest thing in the world, but that's literally our job, to call and make sales. But people are reluctant because they don't want to seem salesy. They don't want to seem, like needy or desperate. And so what I've reframed for myself and for my clients over time is that if you are in a space where you offer a product or a service that you truly believe can help someone, you're not in sales, you're in service. And if you're having the right conversation, you're asking the right questions, you're going to know very early on, is this individual someone who I can help with my product or service? Or is this someone who is not going to benefit from my product or service? And if not, we know we're going to move on from them. But if they are, it's my belief that it becomes your duty to serve that person to the highest level. And so when you're afraid to get on the phone and actually reach out, just remind yourself that you're serving. You're here to help. And if you can help, then you're doing your big duty in the universe, and the universe will always repay you in kind. And that's where it gets very important. And the reframe of that to me has been very helpful. And I hope that it's very helpful for those of you on the call who are watching the replay, because that's all we're doing. We're just here to help people. We're here to serve. And when you get that in your mind and you approach all of these different follow-up types with that mentality, it's going to make a big difference in your conversations and in the way that you close sales. Moving on from that, you have phone calls. You have messaging. So you could send text messages. You can send emails. You could send a direct message on social media. Now, that's another topic, but that inline messaging where you're not actually communicating with your voice, but through a visual, that is a whole different type of contact than having a phone call. Here's the interesting part, though. You need to be very, very skilled and continuously practicing in your communication styles and skill set, I should say, basically, both in the written word and the spoken word. Because there are going to be people who are auditory that want to hear your voice, and there are going to be people who are very visual that just want to look at the words and read through everything. And a lot of times you'll find during the conversation, they're going to give you cues as to the kind of communicator they are in the language that they use. So they're going to use visually stimulating type words, or they're going to use something like, I'd like to hear more about this. Can you tell me what that, sounds like? That's going to give you a sense of what kind of communicator they are. So that's where you can also use that information in the types of follow-up that you're doing. So we have messaging. Now we move on to social media. I don't know how many of you are using social media, but this is the true thing. At this day and age, there's a lot of opportunity to build relationships online and never have to actually have a phone call with anyone. I've sold millions of dollars through communicating just with someone on social media. So understand, this is a great tool to communicate with others where you can build a relationship and engage. And it's going to separate you from the majority of other sales professionals, because not everyone is going outside the box or utilizing these strategies to build a relationship with clients. And again, that's all we're doing. We're building a relationship to get to a point where we can serve them and find out, yes, I can help you, or no, I cannot. And that's where we get to move forward with the sales process. Finally, we have the personal touch. Those of you that knock doors, that you go out in person. I also like to think if you can send someone a gift, this is going to sound a little bit silly, but it also works. If you take the time to get to know someone and understand a little bit about them, maybe you do some social recon and you kind of learn what kind of person they are. Maybe you send them a book. Maybe you send them a little memento, something to help them remember you, but that is focused around them having a memory that's important to them, or focused on something, a topic, a conversation that's important to them. So you might go on and realize that one of your prospects is really into golf, but he's also really into his kids. So maybe you order a couple of, custom golf tees that say #1 dad or something along the way that help him feel like, you know what, that's awesome. That's a cute little gift. And I appreciate that because they took the time to know who I am and what's important to me. And again, if we're getting people to know, like, and trust us, this is an important part of building rapport. This is all just standard sales practice. But a lot of people aren't using that personal touch as a way to communicate with their prospects. So now I want to move into the actual 30-day process, because this is where it really starts getting good and the rubber meets the road, as ChatGPT would say. Because here's the thing, we can have all the conversations, I can give you all the strategies, but now I want to give you the exact process, the cadence that I've used to generate well over $1 million in sales commissions. And it goes to that first 30 days. Because in that first 30 days of learning that someone has an issue or something that you can help them with, that typically is that like critical point of communication. If someone has raised their hand and said they have a problem, you want to try to get to them in that first 30 days, because after that, it could be a wash. And for most of us, just about everybody on this call, other than maybe one or two of you, everything we do has a, let's say, 30 to 60-day sales cycle, maybe even longer. Now, some of you knock doors and you get that one call closed, but there's still some value to building a follow-up process for those who are inbound that you haven't had a real conversation with yet. And that's what this process is dialed into. It's like, hey, if they've raised their hand or expressed any sort of interest level, that first 30 days is critical. And this process is what you can use to be very, very successful. So when I look at it, day one, the first thing I want to do if I get someone's info is I want to call the damn lead. I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to smile and dial, and I'm going to reach out, and I'm going to try to have a conversation with them. Hey, what made you decide to reach out? I'd love to know more about your situation and see how we can help. Are we a good fit for you? If not, no big deal. I'll know who is and point you in the right direction. Does that sound fair? People are going to love that. They're going to think that's great. It's one of those things that's going to really separate you from everybody else and give you the opportunity to put them in a position to feel like they're making decisions. If they don't answer that call, I'm going to go in and I'm going to send a text message. Hey, so-and-so, this is Drewbie at Call the Damn Leads. I received your information. Would love to know what made you decide to reach out. Do you prefer to have a phone call or chat here in messages? I'm good either way. Because a lot of people don't necessarily want to get on the phone, myself included. Don't just randomly call me. Reach out and let me set a time for you that fits within my schedule. I like to give the client that same opportunity. If they'd rather chat, that's fine. Let's communicate right here in the text messages. If you want to communicate by phone because you're more auditory, great. We can do that too. Let's go do that. It's all about giving them that sense of where do we want to communicate and that opportunity. If they don't respond to either of those the next day, my CRM is going to tell me, hey, Drewbie, make another phone call and try to help them out. If they don't answer, then I'm going to send them an email that has a recap of some basic information based on their request. So if they reached out to me because the offer was, I want to know if I qualify for a free roof based on damages from a past storm. Okay, well, then I know that the conversation needs to be based around what are the things that would qualify you for a free roof, or what are the expectations of what that process would look like? How do I need to get a hold of them and make sure that they know what's going to happen next and let them know that I'm the authority that they should be communicating with to solve this problem? If they don't answer that day, day three, I'm going to pick up the phone again. Call the damn leads, it's Drewbie. If they don't respond to that, I'm going to go on social media and see if I can find them. A lot of times the clients that I'm working with, I know are on social media. I can find them somewhere. Most of the time my ads ask for their information for social. So like I'm kind of expecting to have to go and chase them down a little bit. So I make that part of my process. Again, this is where I get to do some social recon and understand maybe they have certain things that are, hobbies or interests that I can mention during that conversation when I get them. Because everything that I'm doing is about that initial like pattern interrupt and getting attention. Pattern interrupt, get attention, because we have a very, very short opportunity to connect with these individuals, especially if you're someone who's buying internet vendor leads that are being sold to 3 or 4 other people at the same time. Speed to lead is like massive. You have to be the first person to get on with them, because the statistic, I'm going to butcher it, but I think it's 87% of people sign with the first person they talk to after requesting information. So like speed to lead is really important. But here's what's crazy. After that first day, it drops drastically because they're so inundated with people that are trying to sell them that now they kind of get frustrated and they don't want to deal with it as much. So it's the continuance of this over time that becomes very important, because after day one, if they haven't responded, you're going to have two different avenues of people. You're going to have the people that are so inundated by a request that they don't want to deal with it at all. So they're going to ignore it for a while. Or you're going to have the people that realize they've now got 6 different people they're communicating with. So you have to be the one that stands out above all of the rest. And you have to be the one that's memorable. And you have to be the one that's top of mind when it comes time for them to make the decision of who they're going to work with. So that's why it's important that these different communication points and the recon that you're doing to try to understand the individual, like where they are and what they're going through, is so important. Because as we move into the next series, day 4, same thing. We're still in just the first couple of days here where I'm doing all of this work to try to get a hold of this lead. Because again, if I'm the business owner and I've spent $50, $100 for this person's information, I don't want it to go to waste. And I sure as heck don't want someone else in my market to sell them the product or service that I'm here to sell them. So again, it's about consistent communication for this first 30 days. And I'll show you where we start to teeter off here as we move into the second week. So we got day 4, phone call. Again, I'm going to hit them with a text message. Just a reminder, we're still here to check in. I hadn't heard back, wanted to connect with you. Day 4 is also a great time to send a meme. So those of you that know me as the meme lord, this is where if I'm sending a text on day 4, it's usually some kind of silly meme that'll be like, hey, just checking in. Hadn't heard back from you. I didn't put any in this presentation because that's for you guys to come and learn about in another call. But this is a great place for a meme, is on day 4. Day 5, again, I'm going to call. So every day for the first 5 days, I've called them at least one time trying to have a conversation. Because as I get into the day 5, now I'm like, all right, I'm going to reach out on social. I'm going to look again, see if maybe they've made a post recently, if I can find them. Maybe I'm going to go and engage with that post and just say something friendly, but just kind of like, hey, just trying to connect with you, but not awkward, right? Look for something that's recent, somewhere where you can engage with them that's going to have like a real authentic purpose, and just try to get them to be aware that you're still connecting with them. Then we're going to go from day 5, we're going to wait a couple of days. We're going to go over to day 8, because now as we move farther out into the process, I don't want to be a pest. I don't want to be overwhelming for these people. So I'm going to make a point to kind of start teetering a little bit while still sending information that keeps me top of mind. That's why I like on day 8 is where you can be really strategic and you can go and say, all right, well, I'm going to maybe mail this person a book. And if you don't have their physical address, maybe you go in and it's like, all right, well, I've seen that they're really interested in X, Y, or Z. So I'm going to create an email specifically that talks about something that they're interested in. And maybe I'm going to send them a link to a book on Amazon that I really like. Or maybe I'm going to send them a podcast episode about something in relation to what kind of individual they are. And it doesn't even have to be at all business related. It could just be like, hey, John, I was going through my CRM, working on people who had reached out, looking for help. As part of my process, I like to learn a little bit about my clients. I recognize that you're really into WWE wrestling. Funny enough, I heard this podcast the other day where a couple of guys, Undertaker and Hulk Hogan, were talking about XYZ. I just thought I'd send it over for you and remind you that I'm here if there's anything you need in regards to XYZ product or service that we offer, right? It takes a little time, but you're differentiating yourself from someone else who's there that's just sending the same canned follow-up messages and the nonsense that's just like, all right, well, this isn't very personal. It's just your CRM. There's nothing about this that makes me realize I want to work with you. Moving into the next series. Days 10, 15, and 21. So now you can see we're still teetering a little bit further along, but we're staying consistent. As you can see, we're already at 8, 9 different touch points along the way, which really, if you think about how we're duplicating most of these, this is almost 20 touch points in the first 2 weeks. And what I know is statistically, sales start to they go way up day 1, and then they crash back down, kind of like crypto. I don't know if anybody of you have ever used crypto before, but it's like it gets real hype, and then it crashes off and dies. And then over time, it starts to grow back up. Hopefully, if you're in those kind of businesses, maybe it's not, yeah, side project. I got tangent. But the point is, over time, the contact points start to increase your chance of closing the sale, because most people, not anyone on this call, because you're here now and you're learning this and you're never going to make this mistake again, but most not super professional sales professionals, they give up after the first day or two. Once they've called or texted a couple times and don't get a response, they stop trying. So if you want to differentiate yourself from everyone else in the market, these are the times, the touch points where you're going to start really making a difference. So day 10, when you call them and you say, hey, I just wanted to check in and see what you thought of XYZ personal thing that I sent you. Did you get a chance to listen to that podcast? Did you watch that YouTube video? Did the book I sent to your house show up? I just wanted to make sure, because it's important to me that you know I'm here to help. So once again, we're just kind of trying to let them know we're here to serve. Day 15, we're going to do the same thing. Picking up the phone. Hey, it's been a couple of weeks since I got your information. I just wanted to know if you'd already moved forward to get this problem solved or not. If you have, that's cool. Just let me know. I don't want to be a pest. If not, can you please let me know what might be holding you back from moving forward or getting this taken care of? I know that typically the longer we wait for things, the worse they usually get. And I don't want you to be in a situation where it's so bad you can't handle it. So if there's something small, let me be here to offer some advice and point you in the right direction either way. Because again, if someone chooses not to do business with us, that's okay. But it's the opportunity to at least have that conversation with them and give them a choice that's so important here. So just continuing along, this whole process is about educating, entertaining, and building relationship. This is all rapport building. It's the same thing we'd be doing in an actual conversation, but we're just kind of shifting it to be almost passive in a sense. So as we're kind of going through this process with the client and having these conversations, they will be able to build that rapport and keep moving forward. Day 21, we're now 3 weeks since the initial reach out of information. We're going back to the personal gesture. Can you send a little handwritten note? Can you drop something by the office? Can you send them another podcast, video, something that's just, again, a little more personal in nature to let them know that you're there and that you're there to help? And also, I like to include something that's kind of like, hey, pretty soon here, I'm going to be removing you from the follow-up system if it's not of value to you. Again, if this is not something you're interested in, no hard feelings. Please just let me know so that I'm not a bother. You can be very direct with people and just let them know where you're at, and also let them know that your time is important and valuable too, because if they're not interested, you don't want to keep bothering them, but you don't want to waste your time either. And I've had a lot of clients who are very respected of that. They're like, you know what? I'm not interested. Sorry. Thank you anyway. It's like, cool, no problem. Now it's less time I'm wasting following up with you and more time I'm spending on someone who cares. Not that I'm going to say that to them, but internally, that's what we know. And then moving into the end of the sequence on day 28, this is where we're going to call one last time. And if they don't answer, we're going to basically let them know, hey, John, I really appreciate the opportunity to potentially look at solving XYZ problem. However, I haven't heard from you. At this time, I'm going to move you into my system into a maybe later situation. And I'm going to drop occasional messages just to let you know what we do, where we're at, and how we can help you should this ever be something that you decide to work on. If not, totally cool. Have a wonderful day. We'll look forward to catching up with you sometime in the future. And you're just going to be very clear that A, I'm not going to keep bothering you at this point, other than the occasional reach out to let you know who we are, what we do, and why we're the best at it. And this is where you would move them into a drip sequence or some further stage of your process, which again, I'm not going to go deep on this call. However, it is a lot that we talk about in the training and in our Call the Damn Leads crew, where we go deep on all of these sales and follow-up processes. So if you're looking to get on calls like this every week where you can learn and grow and get these strategies, you'll want to reach out to me about the Damn Leads crew, because that's what this is all about. Getting back to this though, following through this whole 30 days, you can see we have 10 specific touch points with 2 actions per touch point, which puts us somewhere between 18 and 20 total attempts at reaching out to each lead that comes through the system. So what I want you to think about here is that as a business owner or entrepreneur, or even as a sales professional, is that this process, as you start adding more leads, gets to becoming time consuming, and it is a process. So you can't just step into doing this and get 10 or 15 leads a day, 10 today, 10 tomorrow, 10 Wednesday, 10 on Friday. All of a sudden, you've got 50 people every day you're trying to run through this process. So the more you can create the system and process and reminders to notify you, hey, this is the day, this is the thing that needs to be done, the better. Because if you're just trying to wing it or remember how to do it yourself, you're not going to. So simplifying it is, even if you can't create the automations for the texts and the emails, if you can just put a reminder system together that says, hey, on these days, remind me to follow up with the person with this specific process, it's going to help you and your team massively be more successful and get a much, much better ROI on those leads. Because now you can say, all right, well, where did John Smith fall off? When did we reach him during the process? And you can start measuring these results. And that's when you measure it, you can improve it. And that's where it'll be really important to know, as a leader or as whatever, role you play in the team, what are the KPIs and the metrics, and how many leads are you getting per day, so that you can make sure this is consistent over time. That said, I do have a process to make it easy on you. And this is the golden ratio for sales in any profession. I have used this to, again, make millions of dollars for myself and taught this to people that have made a ridiculous amount of money. I'll never claim what they did as my own, but it's a lot, okay? They made a lot of money by just trusting this ratio. And so it looks like this. We're going to work somewhere between 20 and 22 days a month. That gives us a couple weekends off. That gives us some time for ourselves. I mean, you're all entrepreneurs and we all work 6-7 days a week. I get it. But let's just be straight. As most leaders, we're going to work 20 to 22 days a month. If we stick to this ratio, the consistency is that we're going to close somewhere between 30 and 50 deals every month. And here's how. We're going to start with, every day, the goal is to make at least 100 outbound attempts. Phone calls, text messages, emails, door knocks, in-person visits, anything that you're doing with intention to try to build that relationship with another human, that's what I consider an outbound attempt. I'm not looking at automations where you're sending 1,000 cold emails a day. Yeah, that can help, but I'm just looking at the basics. Focus on your current list. Are you making 100 attempts a day? If you don't have 100 people in your database, are you knocking doors? Are you looking for people on social media? Where are you going and actively creating an attempt to build a relationship with someone and ask questions? This is just the pre-qualifying. It doesn't even have to be making an offer, because that's where we move into serious conversations, of which we're trying to have 10 per day. So that's a 10% conversion rate. Out of 100 people, can you get at least 10 of them to have a conversation with you to the point that you've built rapport, qualified them for the need, and then presented them with a solution or an offer to get that solved. That's what I consider a serious conversation. If you have 10 of those per day, over time, as you get better at sales and you depending on what you learn and what you implement from this and other trainings, you'll get to where you close 2 sales per day. That's a 20% close rate from offers made and a 2% close rate from outbound attempts. So these are very reasonable numbers in almost any industry to hit. That's why I try to keep it simple, because all of these different products and services, everyone has their own little, oh, well, this only works in this way. Here's the deal. This is just a basic formula that you can follow, that if you stick to it 20 to 22 days a month, will give you consistent results. I can't promise you what those results will be, because every situation is different. But I know if you just stick to this, you're going to get a result. And over time, we can take those results, we can measure what worked, what didn't, and we can improve upon it. Again, that's the kind of stuff that we do in the crew. As we going through and learning what's working, what's not working, we bounce ideas off each other every week, and we give you strategies on how to go and implement to increase the efficiency. So going through this again, 100 attempts a day, 10 serious conversations, 2 closed sales. Here's the beauty of this, though. You only need to get 2 out of 3 in any given workday to know you had a good, successful day. Because if you have 100 attempts, it's going to take time. If you look at this, like 100 calls, minimum 2 minutes per call, that's 200 minutes of not moving or doing anything else and not even talking to anybody. That's a couple hours. That's like 3 hours, almost 3.5 hours, just calling and not getting any answers. So it does take time to go through this process. If you have a conversation for 15 minutes and then you take 5 minutes to update the CRM, well, that's 20 minutes of your day that you've now spent. If you have 10 serious conversations at 20 minutes, what's the math on that? That's 2,000 minutes, right? So how many hours is that? I don't know if that's, no, it's 200 minutes. So again, you got 3.5 hours of real conversation. If you have 3.5 hours of real conversation, well, you're probably not going to be able to necessarily have 3.5 hours of outbound attempts. Maybe you are because you're working your full 8-hour day, but we know most employees don't work 8 out of the 8 hours of the day. They work like 5 to 6, and then they got breaks and they got travel time and they got all the other shit in between. So just understanding if you can get 2 out of 3 in this every day, over time, law of large numbers and compounding, it turns into consistent results. So imagine the possibilities. If you had this system in place and you knew that every lead that came in could potentially turn into a conversation at some point in time, you could now then update and train your scripts and adjust things to be more consistent and predict how long it would take to have that conversation. If every conversation paved the way to a good relationship where people wanted to send you more referrals, what would that look like in your business? If every time you followed up, people were actually excited to hear from you instead of annoyed, what would that look like? And if your sales process didn't just close deals, but actually got you more money and more opportunity, would that be beneficial for you? I know it would. That's why you're here. That's why we're learning this stuff. And that's why I wanted to give you this opportunity to go and get a free copy of my book, Call the Damn Leads. And if you're on this call, get a free 15-minute consultation with me where I will help break down these processes for you in your business so that you can go be more effective and efficient and make more money. That said, I'm 10 minutes over on what I thought would be a 30-minute call, and I'm still going to pause here, give you a second to scan the QR code if you haven't already. And then I'm going to open up the floor for feedback and discussion because I'm going to give you another, 10 minutes or so to take a couple quick questions to close out this call before I get out of here, because I wanted to make sure everyone here got to leave with a massive amount of value and, as promised, an amazing gift and opportunity to go out and implement this so that you can create change in your business. That said, I want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank those of you who watched this live, on the replay, wherever. Comment in the group, let me know. I realized like halfway through this thing I didn't hit record, so like none of this got saved, even though it was absolutely amazing. Doesn't matter, I'm still going to try to download it later. But the point is, you were here, and I thank you for your time and your attention. And at that, I'm going to open it up. So if you have a question, you're on the Zoom, raise your hand, do the thing, let me know, and I will call on you so we can get you up. Amy, Shane, I see you jumped right up, so I'm going to pull you up first. What you got for me?
I have a question. It's so, you know how our business model works. It's more in the home. Would you suggest those 100 calls a day be done by our client experience manager to start those 10 conversations to say, hey, why don't we send somebody out to take a look at your project? And then the sales rep or product consultant actually does the pitching from that 10. I'm not trying to have my client experience manager sell or pitch anything. They're just trying to get us in the damn home, right? So we can call the damn leads.
So essentially, they would almost be like a, I'm going to say this for lack of a better word, but glorified appointment setter. The customer experience, right? We want to get our team the opportunity to help you, but the best thing we can do is get them there to look at what they're going to see first. And then, so yeah, I think that's great. Have them focus on the 100 calls, and then even give them a KPI of, all right, well, your goal is 100 calls. and to set at least 2 appointments a day, right? That their KPI applies the same way as your closers. Then it goes to, all right, well, if you're having 10 serious conversations, they still also need to be following up with those people, because it's not on the client experience people to get the sale, is it? So your sales team still has to have a metric or a KPI in place of like, all right, well, how many follow-ups did you do today? Because if you're not closing every single one of those leads that we set for you, what's happening to them?
Right. So then my second part question is, where does she call those 100 leads a day or 100 customers, right? Like, is there a list that we get? Like, I used to buy lists. I never found that it was worth it. Do we call out of our existing customers because we already have a drip campaign on those 2,600 customers? Or do we just try to find new customers? Where's that 100 leads or 100 contacts coming that we try to get her involved in? Because if I say just call 100 people a day, she's gonna look at me like I'm crazy. Like, okay,
Two-part answer.
phone book.
Yes. So two-part answer. One, you could have part of her goal being, hey, you're going to hit X number of previous clients per day, right? Like, hey, you're going to call at least 50 previous clients, and we're going to see what that experience was. Either A, asking them for a referral, or B, has anything happened? Any new storms caused new damage that need updated, repaired, or replaced? Right. So that could be part. And the other part is kind of two-part. One, as a business owner, it's your responsibility to put those leads on their plate. So spending more for marketing, going out and generating them yourself, or creating a training for them so that they know how to go out and self-generate, which could be cold calling lead list, working social media. Like, there could be that's a different conversation for a different call. But that's part of it. Would be like, all right, well, what are you doing to put those leads in front of them to give them the numbers to reach out to? Cold calling sucks, but if you need to give them something to do, they got to do what they got to do. Is that helpful?
Thank you. Yeah.
You got it. Next, any other questions? Don't be shy. Raise your hand. Stop in. Say hi. If not, again, I'm going to share my screen one more time so you guys that weren't here, that want to try and get the book or schedule that call with me, hit the record QR code, do the thing, schedule it. I'd love to chat with you. I'd love to have a conversation and help you dial in this process, because again, it has helped make me a ridiculous amount of money and also given me an opportunity to go and live an amazing life, which is what I want you to be doing. So please go do the work, follow the process, trust the process, and let me know what those results look like. I'll see you guys on the next call, and look forward to seeing you. Go call the damn leads. Later.